negative you've been seeing on Twitter and stuff, and listen, it's just rumours are rumours, but obviously Liverpool's form this season hasn't been great compared to obviously previous seasons, and obviously they make that 1 + 1 = 3 sometimes, and loads of rumours of Gerrard possibly going to Liverpool. So just, listen, we don't know how true it is, it could be a lot of nonsense, but do you feel at the end of the season that could be a possibility, or do you think Gerrard's still got a lot more to prove before he makes that leap down south?
I don't think there's anything to it at all, to be honest. It just, Liverpool just going through a bit of a sticky spell, but they've also lost their two main centre-backs for most of the season. So any team's going to miss their two main centre-backs. Liverpool have been on a tough run. Manchester City are playing some of the best football that they've played under Guardiola. So it's just one of those things. But Klopp's a top manager. He's won the Champions League, he's won the Bundesliga, he's won the English Premier League. We've obviously got a great manager of ourselves in Steven Gerrard, but I think Steven probably will be looking at another couple of years at Rangers before there's even a thought of that happening. And one bad season at Liverpool for Klopp doesn't mean he's a bad manager either, and they should be sacking him. So, yeah, I think it's just one of those things that 2 and 2 gets to 5 kind of thing. I don't see anything at it, and I certainly see Steven Gerrard being here for another couple of years at least.
But that's the thing. Well, we say that, right, and everybody they would agree that Klopp's probably had one of the safest jobs in football management, simply because of the job that he's done at Liverpool. But football can be a crazy place.
It can, but Klopp's got loads and loads of credit in the bank with Liverpool. He's won them the Champions League. He's won them their first title in 30 years. So they're not just going to say, well, you've had a sticky season, as Willie says, without your two centre backs. They've been playing Jordan Henderson at centre back. He's never a centre half, and because they're playing him there, they're missing him in midfield. So he's putting square pegs in round holes because it's all he's got. Because obviously they've realised that their centre halves are going to come back, so there's no point in going to spend really, really silly money to replace them when come next season they're not going to need the replacements because their original guy Van Dijk and whatever else are going to be back. So I don't see Klopp going anywhere anytime soon. And I think Steven Gerrard he'll listen to Graham Souness. And Souness always said he left Rangers too early. And Souness was a lot more successful than Gerrard has been in his time here so far. Obviously, totally different circumstances. But Souness came out and said, look, he's on record as saying he's left Rangers far too early. And he'll also look at what happened when Sir Alex Ferguson left Man United. How long did it take them to get a manager to replace him? And I know Klopp's not been there nearly as long as Ferguson was at Man United, but he's done such a good job for them that he's going to be a hell of a jersey to fill. So I think Gerrard will go somewhere else first. I can't see Steven Gerrard being the next Liverpool manager. Maybe the next but one, but I don't think he'll be the next one. So he'll have to go somewhere else first, but that won't be for a few years yet.
But that is the point, Derek, actually. It's something I never thought about until Wolf said it. Is that, it's not like Sir Alex, right? Sir Alex was at Manchester United since before I was born, right? Because I'm a lot younger than all of you. But is that really somebody that you want to follow when you're going to your boyhood club?
So I think if Gerrard's got the confidence in his own ability, that he wouldn't see that as an issue, to be honest. But again, it would be very difficult. He's been their most successful manager in the last 30 odd years, if not longer than that. So it would be big shoes to fill. But I think Gerrard would have confidence in his own ability and his backroom staff. And is it easy could you say no to your boyhood club as well, which is obviously a big thing. I know all of us would walk over broken glass to manage Rangers no matter what we're doing in our lives, but I think Gerrard might be the same for Liverpool. I think he will be the next Liverpool manager, but I don't think it'll be this year. I think Klopp will keep his job. He deserves to keep his job for the reasons that Will's been mentioning. I think we just need to get used to the fact that Gerrard's going to be leaving us, and hopefully with Ross Wilson, not in the near future, hopefully Ross Wilson, etc., has got a plan for the next person, because Gerrard will be the next Liverpool manager, but I just don't think it'll be this season or next season. Sorry.
Even though, Derek, if they don't make top four,
even though if they don't make top four, I think that he's won a Champions League. He's won the first league in 30 years as well. I think he's got a bit of grace there. Liverpool fans are probably a lot more understanding than other clubs down in England as well. They love Klopp. You know, they've took him to his heart. I can see them not going for him, if that makes sense. As I say, he's brought success back to a club that didn't really have any success domestically for 30 years. So I think he's got a little bit more leeway down there, Martin.
I think as well, the fact there's no crowd in will buy him a bit of time as well, because you know there's always going to be a vocal minority that'll start screaming for his head. But if they're not in the grounds, they can just laugh everything else off as well. It's keyboard warriors having a try to give them a hard time on social media and stuff like that. So it's a slightly different situation because they're not in the ground giving them grief from the cop or whatever. Not that the majority of the cop would do that, but you'll get some. You know, it's like going to Ibrox and, you know, if we're not two up in 10 minutes, there's grumblings from some people. It's a similar sort of situation, isn't it?
No, yeah, and look, right, okay, you kind of mentioned it there, Derek. Look, he's going to go one day. Every manager goes, and probably really isn't a subject you should be talking about when you're kind of weeks away from your league. You're doing really, really well in Europe. But when he does go, Derek, how big a job is it going to be to replace Gerrard? Because I would imagine that when he does go, it's not just Gerrard that's going, it's that full backroom team that's going with him.
I think it will be full backroom. It's almost as big a shoes to fill as what it will be filling Klopp's at Liverpool's. You know, the guys turned us round from a shambles in the space of 3 years to hopefully in a couple of weeks winning a monumental league title. So it would be very difficult, and I'd imagine they come as a package. So when Gerrard goes, Bielsa, etc., will follow. But we've lost managers in the past, like Walter Smith, and you know, and even going back, Jock Wallace, etc. We've soldiered, soonest again, like Wilfred said, we've soldiered on. We will replace Gerrard and we will be successful. We've actually got the structures in place now off the park with Ross Wilson and above. You know, that I'm not as worried as I would have been 2 years ago or 3 years ago losing Gerrard. So we will replace him, we will move on. And, you know, if he goes to Liverpool, it means he's made us a success. So he'll go with everyone's best wishes. I just hope it's in a couple of years' time when he's took us into the last 16 of the Champions League or something.
That's the big thing, William, I suppose. And also, again, and a lot gets made of the Scottish League. And, you know, if you listen to, I don't know, Talk Sport or whatever, I mean, there was a conversation on Talk Sport the other night where they were saying, like, forget what he's doing in the league because we're not interested in what he's doing in the league. It's what Rangers are doing in Europe that's getting everybody talking. So would it be fair to say that, you know, Steven Gerrard will want a crack at the Champions League with Rangers?
I would expect so. I think that's probably one of the reasons why he came here. Don't have a crack at the Champions League with Rangers. I don't really take much notice about a lot of these English pundits have to say because they think the EPL was the best league in the world, and anybody that watched that Man United game earlier on will probably disagree because it was horrendous. So, you know, like the EPL gets talking about so much at so many levels, and at times under certain managers and with certain teams, it's exceptional. But a lot of the time, like when the top four, the top six meet, it's never usually that great a game. And that's just the honest reality of it. Sky pay a lot of money to show it. BT show a lot of games as well now. I think like Amazon have bought packages. And that's off the back of how well they sell the product. But the product on the park probably doesn't add up to the money they actually get and the standard of players. You know, they slag Scottish football rotten at times about the standard this and the standard that. But I'll tell you something, see if we get through past Slavia and we draw one of the English teams, I genuinely wouldn't have any fear about playing them, you know. And I think that probably says more about us right now and where we are under Steven Gerrard than anything else.
You think it has to be a big name? Well, in fact, I'll give a bit of context to that question. Obviously, we brought in Gerrard at a time when we weren't exactly in the best of shakes, but it was the name Gerrard that we brought in. So see our next manager, and by the way, I have to say for people listening, the only reason that we're talking about this is because there was no football at the weekend and we've got nothing else to talk about. So see that the next manager that we bring in, does it have to be somebody, maybe not quite with a similar hype and name as Gerrard, but somebody close? Or can we go for a tried and an untested manager?
I think it has to be a manager with a bit of experience and a bit of a reputation in the game. I mean, I don't doubt for a second some of the players that we've brought in have come in because it's Steven Gerrard. You know, I mean, you go back guys like even guys like Jordan Rossiter. I know Jordan Rossiter didn't work out because it was injuries and stuff. The only reason he came to us was because who the manager was. You know, and there's lots and lots of other players in the same boat because he's a big name. Then they get to the club and they realise how big the club is. Mm-hmm. and we know what happens after that. You know, but I mean, going back to the point about, you know, who's going to replace him, I don't doubt for a second that Ross Wilson's got a short list. He'll know in his head, you know, he'll think, right, okay, he'll have a list, say, right, if a manager goes in a year, here's my short list. If he goes in 2 years, here's what I'm looking at, and that'll be changing all the time. You know, I mean, they say that he's got short lists of dozens and dozens of players for every position. I don't doubt that he's got a short list of names for prospective new management teams. You know, with projecting how far forward he might say, okay, if Gerrard goes next year, this is who we're going to approach.
Mm-hmm.
But in 2 years' time, this guy here, will keep an eye on him. He might be quite good.
Yeah.
You know, because he's projecting himself up. I've got no qualms that we'll be able to replace him successfully and very, very quickly after he goes. But
See when Gerrard came,
he's not going anywhere anytime soon.
Sorry, Wilf. See when Gerrard came, he was a novice manager, right?
Mm-hmm.
We can't get away from that. He's done a remarkable job. But we were in a place where we could not attract big names, in my opinion. And Gerrard's a big name, not a big manager. But where we are now, we would not have a problem attracting decent managers who have had decent careers. Rangers, the product is much better. Rangers on the park is much better. We're successful. We've got these structures in place that Will's been talking about. We're the director of football. We are now almost, you know, attractive for most of these managers now. So I don't think we'll have an issue. We had to go down the novice route with Gerrard, in my opinion. It's worked massively, and now we're a better product for managers that want to come and manage, hopefully, in a couple of years.
Yeah, I think one of the interesting bits about that is I was actually listening to a podcast recently, and it was a Peterborough chairman, Darragh McAnthony, was talking, and now his team sitting top of League One in England. They're on the verge of getting to the English Championship, and on the podcast he was asked, do you keep an eye on all our managers, even though your manager's got you top of League One? And he'd say, yeah. He said it's a constant thing. He says, if somebody was to come in tomorrow and offer me compensation to take my manager and he goes to the Championship, I've got to have somebody waiting to come in.
Mm-hmm.
So he's talking about how he's watching guys in League One, League Two, all our managers, how they speak, how they come across, what type of football they play, how that brand suits Peterborough style. And I think that's what Derek's meaning by that kind of manager. Look, so we play a certain style of football now, so we don't want to bring in a manager who's maybe going to change it up too much because the team is suited to how it plays now.
Mm-hmm.
Ross Wilson has an idea of what players fit into this system. Don't get me wrong, like managers will tweak it a wee bit, but we would want to bring in another manager that plays football in a certain manner because that's how we now play the game and that's how our team is set up. And I think it's just a normal thing that clubs are always looking at, you know, the next right back, the next left back, the next manager. It's just how things have to work. It's a business. If somebody comes in tomorrow and puts money on the table to take Steven Gerrard and his backroom staff, like what happened to Brendan Rodgers at Celtic, I mean, Ross Wilson's probably got a handful of people sitting going, right, okay, that's who we're going to go after. We're going to interview them. You know, we're going to get that backroom staff in. We're going to bring this person. And that's how it works. But I agree with the other guys. I still think that's several years away at the moment. But as a football club, yeah, you've always got to make sure that you've got people in your mind for when something does happen, because eventually it will happen even though we don't want it to.
No, that's actually a really good point. And Derek, that kind of brings it more on to Ross Wilson. And when we first employed Ross, there was obviously a big talk about how good he was at his job. He was doing fantastic things down at Southampton. So it's going to be a real test for him, I suppose, to once Gerrard does go. And I say once because I agree with Willie, a couple of years down the line, we're no panicking yet. Just a conversation about the future in case anybody's listening going, don't talk about Gerrard going. It's going to be a real big test of his mettle and what he does and who he brings in, because it's not just going to be, like we say, Gerrard, it's going to be Gerrard plus a full backroom team.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure exactly the chronological timeline. He was at Southampton, but he's had to do it there. They lost managers periodically over the last 10 years to other teams and bigger things sometimes as well. So it's part of his remit. You know, part of remit is to make sure that we keep ticking over. And as Will said, I'd be shocked if he's not got a couple of lists as handy, because if Liverpool come in tomorrow and offered X amount that we couldn't knock it back, you know, you need to be prepared, as William said about the Peterborough chairman. So he will need to earn his money. There's no doubt about it. But we're coming at it from a hopefully in a couple of years' time, when the club's even more settled, we've got even more sponsorship deals, we've got even more money through Champions League, etc. We'll actually be coming at it from a very good place. Although it'll be a difficult job, all these hard work that he's doing now will hopefully make it easier to attract a manager that's suitable to Rangers.